Hello and welcome to Football Daily, and today we're looking at 10 players who experienced true moments of madness. 10. Thatcher's Elbow. A below-average player with an average career, Ben Thatcher gained notoriety in England for a horrific challenge on Portsmouth midfielder Pedro Mendes. This was not a crunching tackle either, it was an intentional elbow on the Portuguese back in 2006. The Man City left-back left Mendes in a heap after he crashed into the advertising hoardings, rendering him unconscious, and he even suffered a seizure whilst the medical team were by his side. Thankfully, Mendes was discharged from hospital the next day, but Thatcher wasn't getting away scot-free. He was suspended for 14 games in total and fined 6 weeks' wages, whilst also being under investigation from the Greater Manchester Police. The defender retired in 2010 without doing anything notable in football afterwards. 9. John Fashanu. Part of the infamous Wimbledon crazy gang, it was inevitable that one of that group from the late 80s to early 90s would appear on this list, and it had to be John Fashanu. The striker averaged 0.4 goals per league game for the Dons, but it was his antics in the dressing room which put him on our list. His teammate Laurie Sanchez didn't speak to him for 6 years, after Fashanu, a black belt in karate, allegedly tried to break Sanchez's legs by kicking them. Perhaps the most harrowing encounter was witnessed by Vinnie Jones, who said that Fashanu lifted up a player and threw him around the dressing room like a rag doll. The unnamed player's calf exploded and had to have 20-odd stitches as a result. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that dressing room. 8. Kolo's trial. Invincible Kolo Toure seems like he's been around forever in British football, but his career might have seen a different path if he hadn't shown overcommitment in a trial with Arsenal. Before signing for the North London club in 2002 for a mere 150k, Arsene Wenger wanted to take a closer look at the Ivorian and invited him to train with the first team. In a practice game, Kolo was up against Henry and Bergkamp, so it was a baptism of fire for the youngster. Shortly into the match, Kolo dived into a tackle from behind on Henry, leaving him rolling around on the floor, and did the same to Bergkamp not much later. Not happy with those two casualties, he also managed to 2-foot Arsene Wenger, leaving the Frenchman with an ice pack on his ankle. Loving his desire, Arsene signed Toure the very next day. 7. Pepe's Assault. Real Madrid and Portugal's centre-half Pepe has become a more peaceful figure in the last few years and matured into one of the best defenders in the game. But in 2009, Pepe was a different animal, prone to impulsive fits of rage. Pepe's finest hour came when he decided to kick the shit out of Getafe midfielder Javi Casquero after the Spaniard went down a little bit too easily. The incident greatly affected Pepe. He almost quit playing after reflecting on his actions and sinking into depression. We're glad he didn't, as he blossomed into a fantastic centre-half, and back in the first half of the 14-15 season, he was the only starting centre-back in the league not to be cautioned, with Marca labelling him Mr. Clean. 6. Mourinho's Gouge. The Special One's antics on the touchline have always been exuberant, from running down the pitch at Porto to acting like a madman after his Interside sealed their passage to the Champions League final at the Camp Nou. But there have been rather less savoury incidents. Mourinho stepped over the mark in the Clásico while he was Madrid manager in 2011, when the match, as usual, got heated. Marcelo was sent off for hacking Cesc Fabregas down, and shortly after, a scuffle broke out amongst both sets of players and coaching staff. The Portuguese, brave as ever, decided to dig a manicured nail into Tito Villanova's eye before smirking and walking off. And then the players got involved, as Ozil and Villa saw red even though they were already subbed off. Jose went on to apologise for his despicable behaviour and paid his respects to Tito when he passed away in 2014. 5. Vivas's fight. Nelson Vivas is a name many football fans wouldn't know, unless of course you had the misfortune of watching him play for Arsenal, where he somehow appeared 69 times. A rugged fullback, Vivas also played for Inter and both of the Super Clásico teams, Boca Juniors and River Plate. After retiring from football, Vivas became Diego Simeone's assistant manager at Estudiantes and at River Plate, before becoming a manager at the final club of his playing career, Quilmes. He only lasted 4 months in charge of the side, mainly because he decided to jump into the stands and have a fight with one of his own club's fans who was giving him a bit of stick. After dishing out a pretty weak beating, Vivas was dragged away while the supporter left the stadium, a little surprised but basically unharmed. Turns out Nelson was about as good a fighter as he was a left back. 4. Diego's high. El Diego was many things: an unbelievable footballer, a clever cheat, and for a large part of his career, a cocaine addict. Maradona allegedly started sniffing gear when he joined Barcelona in 1982, and this continued until around 2004. Possibly the most obvious time Maradona was coked up was in the '94 World Cup. After he netted a nice effort against Greece, he decided to celebrate like a maniac in front of the cameras, clearly pinged off his nut. Maradona actually tested positive for doping after a match against Bulgaria during the tournament, and though the legitimacy of him using performance-enhancing drugs was unclear, FIFA doctors stated that Diego must have taken a cocktail of drugs. And Maradona didn't help himself with his response, saying, "Do you know what kind of player I would have been if I hadn't used cocaine?" 3. Adriano joins a gang. The Emperor looked all set to conquer Europe from 2002, but it all went downhill rapidly for Brazilian striker Adriano. The forward had all the tools to become a superstar in Italy, but personal issues led him to have half the career he should have had. Once his father died and he was given a new bumper contract, Adriano sank into alcoholism and depression, living a party lifestyle and losing his previously athletic physique. After appearances at various clubs in Brazil, Italy, and finally America, Adriano returned to his native Rio, living a life no one could have envisaged. Allegedly, he joined a gang in his favela, giving the Red Command a motorbike in exchange for protecting him and his family. Pictures have also been released of the former striker holding a rifle and throwing up gang signs. A tragic tale of a fallen emperor. 2. Pulis Headbutt. Welshman Tony Pulis has gained a reputation for being a no-nonsense manager during his 23-year coaching career, and his story involving James Beattie might just be the funniest. Stoke had just been handed a 2-0 defeat by Arsenal at the Emirates, a game in which Beattie came on after an hour and failed to make an impact. Pulis, who was fuming, decided to cancel Stoke's Christmas party and ordered the players to report in for training instead, and it was James Beattie who spoke out against the decision. Poor old James felt the full wrath of Pulis, who, whilst naked, did his best Zidane impression and nutted the striker. Ryan Shawcross later called the event a spectacle, although Beattie didn't really enjoy the aftermath, as he was frozen out of the team before moving to Rangers. 1. Gazza, chief negotiator. Once again, Paul Gascoigne fumbles his way onto our list, but this time it's one specific event which places him in our top spot. It isn't a story to laugh about either, as it concerns Raoul Moat, who killed his ex-girlfriend and shot her partner and a policeman in 2010. Gazza saw the events take place on the telly, and 14 lines of coke down, he decided to think that Moat was one of his best mates. Seeing his friend in a predicament, Gascoigne put together a survival kit of chicken, beer, a barber coat and a fishing rod, and was on his way down to Rothbury to help with negotiations. The police swiftly ushered Gazza over to the paramedics as he got closer to the scene, and after he rose from his binge the next morning, fishing rod by his side, he had no real memory of what had happened.
So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.